Good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And I want to thank TLUSA for sending me this article, which I think really sums up where South Africa is right now. And it's headed, South Africa, warts and all. As the curtain has been drawn over 2019 and the issues of the day jostle each other for a place on the information highway, we ask those media people for whom apartheid South Africa was a surefire headline grabber and where every opportunity was taken to show the world the so-called injustices being perpetrated by some awful South Africans against other South Africans, to please turn their cameras back to this land where the democracy they sought and propagated has now transmogrified into a counterfeit system rotten with corruption and incompetence. After all, surely this is fair? Didn't they always promise their reporting would be without fear or favour? Well, good luck with that, with the fake news. We know where they're going. Those British and American newsmen who could always depend on South Africa to offer up a good yarn on racial conflagration, unfairness, and that old chestnut, inequality, should now pay South Africa a return visit and actually tell it like it is. They don't need to go to Soweto or any other South African township where they used to throw sweets into rubbish bins and photograph children trying to get the candies out of the bin. The world was told this was hunger under apartheid. The world in the main believed them. We would today direct these, without fear or favour, media gentlemen to a place called Standerton, a commercial and agricultural town on the banks of the Vaal River in South Africa's Mpumalanga province. The town is well known for its maize, dairy, cattle and poultry farming. Founded in 1876, Standerton flourished until a few years ago when South Africa's wheels started to come off under the post-1994 ANC, South African Communist Party alliance regime. What has happened in Standerton is mind-boggling and would not be allowed to happen in any civilized country. A report in the Johannesburg Business Times on the 1st of December this year reveals that Mr. Chris Scooter, CEO of South Africa's largest poultry producer, Astral Foods, is actually subsidizing most of Standerton's infrastructure. This is, of course, the job of the highly paid local municipal officials. Under the newspaper headline, "Investment is a fantasy, while infrastructure is all but non-existent," Mr. Schutter informs us that his profits halved in the year ending September 2019 due to water shortages. He has to truck water from the Vaal River to keep his operation going. 3 years ago, Standerton's power supply was cut after the local Lekwa municipality racked up a 300 million rand debt to Eskom, South Africa's monopolistic electricity supplier. The crisis only ended when Astral obtained a High Court order permitting it to buy directly from the utility. Schutter said he is absolutely cynical about President Ramaphosa's calls for investment and promises of economic growth, while across South Africa, critical infrastructure is broken or non-existent. He said, "If you do not have infrastructure, you cannot develop this economy. You can talk until you are blue in the face about investment conferences and people bringing money into the country, but if you drive 20 kilometers outside any of the country's big metropolises, it's all falling apart." Okay, let's look at the municipal side of things. Astral stopped receiving municipal water 5 months ago, which was devastating for a poultry business wholly dependent on it. Without Astral's assistance over the past 5 years, the collapse of the water supply would have happened sooner and been much worse. We were pivotal in maintaining certain parts of the municipal infrastructure. All their water pumps we serviced, replaced and repaired without charge, just to keep the water coming. But now the infrastructure has deteriorated to such an extent that they, the municipality, cannot keep up with the quantity we require. Instead of packing up and moving his business to a more deserving country with a more appreciative and intelligent government, Mr. Schutte plows on. Over the next 2 years, Astral will build its own pipeline to the Vaal, 7 kilometers away, at a cost of 120 million rand. Meanwhile, Astral relies on 120 truckloads a day from the Vaal. Because the Vaal's water is highly polluted, which water serves South Africa's biggest metropolis, Gauteng, the water has to go through a filtration plant before it can be used by Astral. The water interruptions have cost the company 93 million rand so far, plus 2 million rand a month in diesel and rental costs. That's 13% of our net profit just gone, said Schutte. Lost on something that was there once but was not maintained. And still we don't see any action with regards to maintenance. Relocating to the Western Cape is an option. Schutte said, things there work better, everyone knows that. But we have to be close to our raw materials, soya beans and maize, which are up here in Gauteng. Schutte has had full audits done on the electricity and water infrastructure in Standerton and received a stern warning that both are under siege. So although the company is getting electricity for now, we know that every day the system is deteriorating more and more, and it will collapse somewhere. Astral's abattoirs are of such a size that one can't have generators to run all the cooling systems and so on. You need Eskom, and you need a consistent supply, declared Schutte. What about the government's response to this one company? 6 months ago, Astral sent lawyers' letters to provincial and local government and the presidency reminding them of their constitutional obligation to supply water and electricity services, and that infrastructure is not being maintained. For 6 months, Astral has had no feedback. Then the president asked for a further 6 months, which was followed by a letter from Minister Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma asking for more time because the municipality was working on a plan. Remember these turnaround plans, these BS weasel words that these politicians, these ANC incompetent black economic empowerment, black privileged people use? What a load of crap. Excuse my language, but this is the truth. Anyway, Schutte said, this is a guy from Astral, said, but the municipality has known about the situation for ages, and they always talk about a plan. You've got all these plans, and there are audits, and they send people, and they have telephone calls, and meetings, and more meetings, but on the ground, absolutely nothing happens. That's the reality. It's all BS. Astral has advised the municipality in writing that it has set aside 10 million rand to fix some of the infrastructure with regards to the water it needs. The municipality has asked Astral to hand over the money to them, but he has refused. Now nothing happens. Here you see the mentality which TLU SA has written about so much. Some in the ANC alliance would rather see things collapse and will only move ahead to make something work if there's something in it for them, i.e., they're on the take. We see this every day. Astral is the largest, now this is the kicker. Astral is the largest employer in Standerton. It directly employs over 2,600 people at the poultry plant and indirectly another 1,500. So you're looking at over 4,000 people whose work depends on Astral in Standerton. Schutte says, without Astral, the town would have no income. His comments on the lack of understanding on the very basics of how business supports a country are so tragic. Citizens watch the erstwhile functioning South Africa disintegrating before their eyes, while those in charge do nothing because it appears they don't care if the roads turn to dust or the shops disappear to be replaced by corrugated iron knock-ups like we see in the rest of Africa. Just on that shop situation, I had a report yesterday, and I'd like one of my subscribers to confirm and perhaps take some video for me. Northgate, that huge shopping centre, apparently it's about half empty now. Half the businesses have moved out of the place. and apparently it's getting worse and worse and worse. Now, this is what's going to start happening all over South Africa, and this is why Ramaphosa's furphy about businesses coming to South Africa is just that, and he knows it. He's just trying to buy time. Okay, so let's get back to what Shuter says. So Shuter is exasperated when he hears the government call on business to come to the party. What government doesn't seem to understand is that the overseas investors look at what the local investors are doing, and if they don't have water and electricity, then what? Not even to talk about the railroad system. Well, we know Praza's stuffed. Astral used to transport all its maize to the mills by railroad, which is completely dilapidated. It's gone, says the Astral CEO. Now, like the water, the maize has to go by road at an extra cost of 40 million rand a year. Astral has now obtained a court order against Eskom to stop the electricity from the Rand West municipality being cut off. His other company, Meadow Feeds, is within the municipal borders. Despite telling Eskom of the enormous damage which would be caused to his company and other businesses in the area, Eskom ignored this warning and advised Shuter on the 15th of October that it would go ahead and cut electricity on November the 27th. Astral and other businesses in the area needed to go to court to preserve something that should be their right, a consistent supply of electricity. Astral pays its accounts on time, but despite this, Eskom didn't back down on its threat to cut the electricity. And TLU SA really sum this whole tragic situation up. They say, we would like to see some serious investigative reporting by the BBC or CNN or both on the collapse of a once functioning country. We see nothing of the without fear or favour journalism on South Africa overseas. Just a few clips here and there of politicians making speeches, a few quick sound bites of mob violence, and some puff pieces of no real relevance to the state of South Africa. A country being destroyed is surely newsworthy, especially when it always has been newsworthy. But the early news reporting was more in line with certain agendas. Will the international media take a long, hard look and report what they can see now? We wonder. Well, sorry, TLUSA, I wouldn't hold your breath. These liberal dumbos have their own agenda. And because what's happening in South Africa does not fit the narrative, it's not going to get any airtime until such time as the wheels have completely fallen off and you're in the state of Venezuela, where all the businesses have closed down. That's where it's all going, I'm afraid. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video, please share this video, and above all, stay safe. Bye for now.